the way, I'm all in on the casual look.
Yes.
As you can see, no tie for me. I did have to wear the jacket. I was told cool and casual were the words of the year. I do drive a minivan. So there's only.
Do you really?
There's 100%. I'm all in on the minivan.
Does the door slide automatically?
Amen. Both ways. I have 2 sliding doors on my minivan.
That's when it's over.
That I drive.
When you know it's over, when you can go like this and your door is.
He's under 40. He's got so much life to live.
I know. Oh,
I need you to make an
clinging
adjustment
on my
on that.
30s for one more month. Yeah.
All right.
I know. I look
and
about
your
50.
Tigers.
Yeah. Hey.
I'm in on them.
I am too. They're going to the playoffs. At some point in time, and Lauren knows this about me, this is later on in the show, when I will give the Morosi predictions.
Here we go.
Which we all know is bad news for every team that I pick.
They're going to the playoffs, you say, and Paddack going to the Twins. Already some movement. We know Taylor Rogers was what they wanted, what they coveted. Give us the details so far.
Yes, Lauren, right now we believe there are 5 players in this trade between the Twins and the Padres. The Twins will get a player to be named later as well in what is certainly now at least 4 players, 4 major league guys that we know about. So Brent Rooker will go to the Padres as well, along with Rogers to potentially be a closer there. And then coming back to the Twins, Chris Paddack and Emilio Pagan. So helping out their pitching depth in both ways. We know, of course, the Twins, Joe Ryan, a very young opening day starter. So Paddack, someone who's given up a bit more contact the last couple of years and damage. Hope that he reclaims his 2019 form if you're the Twins. And then meanwhile, with Rogers going the other direction, we're not quite sure. Is Dinelson Lamet going to be the Padres closer? They just brought over Suarez, who had pitched in Japan for a couple of years. So that's what the bullpen could look like. Good balance, though, left and right for the Padres with Taylor Rogers joining that left side with Pomeranz as well. So interesting possibilities. And I think this is probably why we were waiting on the Padres' official opening day roster, which we believe will include top prospect C.J. Abrams playing shortstop.
We're always talking about movement. A.J. Preller is a busy man.
That's interesting. Well, he was going to get rid of Chris Paddack and Emilio Pagan some way or another, right? They were going to move him to the Mets for Dom Smith with Eric Hosmer coming back. I think it's interesting to see if Chris Paddack can refine it. Heater flattened out a little bit, change-up mix. Maybe in Minnesota he's able to find it there, but... And I like Rooker. Rooker swings the bat a little bit.
I mean, there was a time with Paddack, you'd walk in with his cowboy hat and it was game over. Not in the too distant past.
You're right,
either.
Lauren. You're right. And I also had the thought, D-Row, that you mentioned Rooker. He might be some insurance to the Padres if they move on from Will Myers, which we know Myers has been eminently available as well. I think Rooker can play. He was a little bit blocked there in Minnesota with Kirilloff and Larnach and other outfield bats. I think that could be a good spot for him.
And to Cleveland up next. Yeah, for sure. The Guardians as well with their extension to Jose Ramirez. We were discussing it in the commercial break. A full no trade clause. Give us the details, JP.
Lauren, he wanted to stay in Cleveland. That was obviously his key thing. 5 years, 124. So certainly I think teams around the game would say a club-friendly extension for him, but again, the player wanted to stay, so it's always hard to argue with that. One of the very best players in the sport in recent years. I was told, Lauren, this morning, there's been no announcement yet. Yes, the agreement is in place. The Guardians open this season on the road, so they may want to wait to do the more thorough medicals once they get back home, announce it officially in Cleveland, certainly as the Guardians open their home schedule next week. But you see what he's done over the course of his career. One of the more versatile players in the game. We talk about the Padres. There was some thought that, in reports, Ken Rosenthal and others reporting that possibly that he'd be traded there if there was no extension. So right now he's going to stay in Cleveland, which is where he's always been, and certainly he becomes a building block. It's a nice beginning for them. Again, new name change. You keep your star player in town. It's a nice way to begin the season in Cleveland.
I feel like I ask this question to you every season. Is he top 5 best players we don't talk about?
Absolutely.
Why? But why? If we ask that all the time, why doesn't it change?
I don't know why it hasn't changed yet, but I think it's a phenomenal deal for Jose Ramirez. I think it's a phenomenal deal for the Guardians. I just think it's interesting. It's like they're not going to pop the clutch on, I guess,
Yeah.
To pick and choose who they pay. So now Bieber's going to get paid.
Well, that's it. So they have to decide. It was something of a quiet offseason for Cleveland. They could have certainly traded Ramirez. They could have traded Bieber. Not a great year, maybe at least relative to what Shane's done in the past to trade in this past offseason. But he's somebody where you look at this season, they get off to a slow start. You know what it was like in Cleveland? They traded you, of course. And that's one of those things where if they get off to a slow start, Cleveland has to be mindful of their market size. We could still see a Bieber deal this year, but certainly not Ramirez.
The Jose extension came about quietly with Aaron Judge. I feel like we're all sort of waiting for it. He said before the season, or I'm putting it away, I'm not talking about it. Could it be that it's already done and they're waiting to announce?
You know, Lauren, great question, because, of course, we expected to be at Yankee Stadium today. The weather intervened.
One more day.
Yeah. One more day to talk.
Sure.
So I was told late last night, Lauren, that there were still some ongoing conversations between Judge's camp and the Yankees. And we've talked a bit off air about Freddie Freeman, another hometown player who didn't stay. I think Freeman's deal could be instructive as to what Judge's contract could be if there is an agreement. Freeman's AAV in L.A., and he's a little older than Judge. Yeah. His AAV was $27 million a year. If you think about the Yankees, what Judge has done, the power potential, what he did last season, if you move that AAV up from $27 million to $28 million, and you take it through 7 years, you get really close to $200 million. So if you went 7 for 200, that basically would be $1 more million than what Freddie got and 1 more year. That takes you up to right around, it's like the precipice of $200 million. I think that's where the sides could be converging if there is a deal. It's not guaranteed one way or the other right now.
Ooh,
I think he's one of the best players in the game. So I don't think this should be hard. I think it's 7, closer to 210, maybe a little bit higher than that. I think he's a guy that puts fannies in the seats. Kids wear the 99 jersey. He's got a bigger impact than just his numbers, and they're phenomenal. And he's a great defender. Correct.
And to your point, and that's a great point about defensive value, playing center field now opens up a ton of opportunities for the Yankees to get their best bats in the lineup every day. And Joel Sherman had a great point in his column in the New York Post. Are you really going to let your best homegrown player since Derek Jeter leave?
And perhaps they won't. And perhaps we'll hear about it sooner
in Minnesota
rather than later. He's asked that 3 times.
I just want to know how 18 teams didn't offer him 35.2 for 1 year, if that's what we're doing.
They may have a chance to do that a year from now.
Or his not 29 other teams. His old team.
Yeah, they're going to miss him.
There's a young guy.
He's ice fishing in Minnesota.
But yes, you're right. Top prospects called up. Opening day. D-Rose said it the way it should be.
The way it should be. You look all around the game, Lauren. Spencer Torkelson in my hometown, Bobby Witt Jr., C.J. Abrams, we talked about a moment ago, Julio Rodriguez. What a great video that was, by the way, of Scott Servais.
Wasn't that good?
Telling him, can you play center field with the 3 tiers in the stadium? Love that. Nick Lodolo, he's going to have a key role in the Reds rotation. And Bryson Stott, I think that's great for the Phillies. This is a team that I think can make the playoffs. I love the grit they've added with Castellanos and Schwarber. Stott at shortstop.
I got to change my predictions. Me and JP, like the Phillies and the Tigers.
You're nervous now.
Expanded playoffs, but so that means the Royals, and then you got the White Sox.
Well, I have the White Sox.
How many teams from the East?
So I have the White Sox winning the division.
Okay.
The Tigers claiming a wild card. I'm all in on the Tigers. The young rotation, I love it. And this is going to shock you. I may mention this in my conversation later on about Jesse Winker. But the Mariners, Lauren. I know I pick them every year.
So how many teams from the East you got?
I've only got one wild card. One wild card plus the division winner. Well, I'll mention that later on. I've got the Jays. I have D-Rose, one of D-Rose's former teams, the Jays, winning the division.
Guess who's not buying it?
You could have 4 teams come out of the East. You won't.
And last year, to your point, if we had these rules last year, you would have had 4 playoff teams out of the East. That's true.
You're the best. You're going to stick around.
Thank you.
Is that phone? That can't be me.
We're doing a morning show here.
Back on the air. I got to go to
opening day for
I got to go to Vibrate. My bad.
Coming up, hour number 2 of this opening day edition of MLB Central. Hi, Mom. Why Alex Bregman is one of the most important players of 2022. That discussion and much more coming up.